Hey, we're back. And this week I'll show you the Minolta Instant Pro. I'll explain why I got it, and then I'll tell you all about how it sounds and feels, and then I'll tell you a little bit about some of the accessories I have for it. So first off, I got this because a square isn't what I would prefer for certain things, like landscapes or group photos or streetscapes maybe, and things like that, where horizontal composition would be nicer. And I also got this because it has some of the most controls on any instant camera, and all the controls are independent of each other, so you can set one thing as well as another thing. For example, you can do manual focus while you're also doing multiple exposures, or you can change the exposure compensation at the same time as you turn off the flash. So a lot of the Instax cameras these days that have some of the similar features, those don't let you do things independently, so that's kind of annoying. Aside from that, more specifically about this, I got the Minolta instead of the Polaroid Spectra Pro just because of the design. This has that sort of more angular 1980s look, even though it came out in 1990, I think. And I just like how that looks more than the Polaroid's curvy, more rounded edge sort of look. So that's why I got this one. And also this little hand strap is a lot nicer. It's leatherette and neoprene pad on a nylon strap, while the Polaroid has this sort of hard rubber kind of strap that I just didn't really like that much. Another reason why I got this was it was really cheap. It was only $25, and I think the most you're ever going to spend on one of these is maybe $50. And lastly, I got it because what was the last reason I got this? Hold on, let me check my notes. I always forget something. Oh wait, there weren't any other reasons why I got this. What I was gonna say was that Polaroid Originals discontinued Polaroid Spectra several months ago in October of last year. And that was a real drag. They said that they discontinued it because the cameras were starting to fail, and they weren't properly ejecting film anymore. A lot of them were doing that apparently, even though this works perfectly fine. So instead of focusing on trying to improve the repair capability, they decided to just kill the film instead. I would have preferred it if they had just focused on making a new Spectra camera based on the One Step 2, but I guess they don't have the financial resources or something to make that a reality. So I guess that's just one of the things you have to get used to when you shoot film. Sometimes films that you want to use just get discontinued. So there's a slight chance that you can do something to still use these cameras. I'm gonna talk about that in the next video. So I'll talk about that later. As for the sound and feel of the camera, this is a good example of plastic fantastic. It's all plastic on the outside. It's kind of creaky. It's sturdy enough, I guess. And it rattles a lot when you move it around. But generally, it's well made, I guess, enough. And it's a fun camera just because it's easy to take around with you, and you get like that sort of casual feeling with a simple camera like this. Overall, the weight is pretty light. It's not feather light. And it's about the same weight as the Polaroid, I think. And as far as like the size when it's folded up, it's a lot thicker. But it's still pretty portable. You can take it around in your shoulder bag, and it's not too much of a lump of I don't know, clay or something, and taking up a lot of space in your bag or anything. So it's about the same length, a little bit. It's a little bit shorter. It's a little bit wider, of course. But yeah, it's just this thickness that's the main difference, which isn't a huge problem. And just like the Polaroid, you grip it like a hamburger, and your finger rests on the shutter button very nicely, and the hand strap keeps everything secure, and you can push around the buttons on the back without worrying that it'll slip from your fingers, which it might, because it's this shape, this A shape. The shutter button, it has two stages. The first stage is kind of light and springy, and the second one, it has a definite click to it. I'll put in an empty cartridge so you can hear what it all sounds like. And this little switch has ridges on it, so that's kind of nice compared to the Polaroid SX70. So it's pretty loud motor whine, just like all other Polaroids. And that's the thing that's breaking down on all these Spectras. The motors are just dying. So let's see. So well, this camera is always set to flash, so it's gonna pop off right now. So here we go. Yeah, it's pretty loud, but it's not really for street photography or anything like that, so you don't have to worry about the sound distracting people or anything like that. Let's see. So the viewfinder is pretty good. The eye relief is fine. I can see all the edges and corners without any problems. And the brightness is actually pretty bright. I think there's really only about a third stop reduction in the viewfinder, so it's almost as bright as just looking through your regular eyes. The coverage is pretty good too. Like, it won't crop out a huge amount from your final print. There's no color cast too. It's like super neutral. There's no magenta or green or anything like that. It's just or yellow or anything. So it's just smack dab, perfectly neutral. That's really cool. And when you half press the shutter button, there's a little green square with a circle. That's the flash ready light. And then there's a little red LED for the numbers that shows you how far the focus has been set. And it's in whole numbers rounded to the nearest foot, I think. And on the back of the LCD, it shows you the focus distance to the nearest tenth of a foot. Let's see. When you're focused like too close or it's too dark or something, that's when it beeps and it has like a orange warning light. So if you do something like that, that's when it beeps. After that, let's see. All these switches on the back, all these buttons on the back, they're like pretty squishy. They don't click, but they're nice size. They're a nice size. They're pretty big and easy to push. So you can get by wearing gloves and not accidentally pushing another button. Let's see. Okay. Little tripod socket on the bottom, and that's basically it for the camera. So overall, it's not super high quality. It's maybe it's like one level more plasticky than the Canon the Canon EOS 600 that I showed you before. So it's like there's a really nice plastic fantastic, and then there's average plastic fantastic, and that's what this is. It's not as plasticky as some other cameras out there, so it's pretty good, pretty nice, so it's pretty cool. Anyway, so the last thing I want to talk about are some of the accessories. So the Minolta Instant Pro came with a close-up lens. It comes in a nice little case, and this lets you focus down to 10 inches. Without it, you can only go down to 2 feet, which is still pretty good. So you just line it up to the front and then press it down in the bottom, and it clicks in. And the view in the viewfinder gets magnified too. So it's like, man, I think this is more like, I don't know, a 58 millimeter angle of view. So as opposed to like the lens without the close-up filter, this is more like a 40 millimeter ish angle of view. I think I haven't calculated it, but that's just how it feels. And also for taking it around, I found this Tamrac Goblin 4.4. If you can't find a spare hard case that's just being sold on its own, I would recommend this Goblin. It's a little bit large, and this sort of padding on the bottom is kind of weird because it has to wrap around, but it's not bad. And it's well made too, so I would recommend that if you need a soft case. And lastly, for the strap, to put on these strap lugs back here, I got a quick release on eBay and stuck it onto one of these old Minolta straps with the gold lettering, and that's kind of a nice strap to put on it because it matches the gold Minolta logo. Yeah. So that's it for the the accessories and everything. And I guess overall, I would say get one of these if you have a high tolerance for expensive film, because Polaroid Spectra is going to get really expensive soon when stocks start going down. And also cross your fingers that Polaroid Originals makes a new series of Spectra cameras, because the aspect ratio is really nice. So I wouldn't really necessarily go out and buy one of these now, but if that's what you want, the cameras are cheap, the film will be expensive, go for it. It's a really nice, fun camera. It's easy to recommend, except for the whole motor dying, film discontinued thing. But yeah, if you just want a camera and to add to your collection, yeah, go for it. And also next week I'll talk about how maybe there's a way to keep these in use even though Polaroid Spectra is dead. So stay tuned for that next week. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a nice day.